JazzCast Pros.
I talk a lot on this podcast about the messy middle. I don't know if I've ever talked about the messy middle while being in the messy middle. So today may be the most vulnerable that I have gotten on the podcast because I don't really have it all put, like a lot of times the messy middle, you're like in it and then you get on the other side and you're like, okay, I'm really glad I went through that messy middle because now I'm on the other side of it and it was worth it. I'm not on the other side, so it's hard to say, yes, this was so worth it, or I'm glad I made these choices. But I just feel really compelled to share this as I am going through it. That is, just why we started the podcast. Welcome to High Vibe Table Talks, the podcast to help you, the current or aspiring solopreneur, navigate the messy middle so you can make both an income and an impact. Hi, I'm Rashawn, and I love creating safe spaces for women to be courageous in their dreams. After spending a decade working in sales for a startup and talking with hundreds of other women entrepreneurs, I know it can be lonely, but you can do this. We are having impactful conversations with people walking similar paths to you, so pull up a seat. This is High Vibe Table Talks. So I'll kind of tell you where I was, where I am now, and where I'm hoping to go. I am putting some things down in my business that feel really hard to put down and scary. And like in the moment, I feel like, okay, I think this is the right decision, but it's not an easy decision. But where we kind of started is, I do have a background in sales, and I talk about this a lot on the podcast. If you don't sell, you don't have a business. And I truly, truly believe that. Since the beginning of the year, I've really felt called to share my sales expertise on this podcast, on my social network, on, the different areas in which I create content to help others feel comfortable in the way that they sell. When I was learning sales, I was learning from a lot of people and I was like, I hear what you're saying, but I want to sell differently because that doesn't feel natural to me. Sales is never going to be comfortable, but how can I do it in a way that still feels like I'm having the conversation in a way that I want to have it, not the way that is scripted by other people based on their personality. And in working with a lot of women entrepreneurs, they're like, I have this wonderful thing and I want to get it out into the world, but I don't want to push it on people. I don't want to feel icky. I don't want to, and I'll link in the show notes the other sales episodes that I've done around what to ask yourself if you feel like you're being pushy or icky in sales. But at the beginning of the year, I was like, this needs to be a focus of my content. I just felt really called to do that. And so at the beginning of the quarter with my mastermind, we all come up with 10-week goals, and every week we take 2 to 3 actionable steps towards our goal, our big North Star goal. And so my North Star goal was, what is this sales thing going to be? And I, the first few weeks was all about just spending time thinking about it, just spending time with it and saying, what form do you want to take? What form do you feel called to take? And so one of my goals is actually to teach entrepreneurship, specifically sales, at some higher ed level. I think that would be so cool. I just feel like I'm manifesting it. So I was like, okay, if this one specific place I really would love to be an adjunct professor at, if they came to me tomorrow, what would I have prepared for them? And so I said, okay, I'm going to start to put together some sort of course, some sort of 10-week course that could be done around sales as an entrepreneur specifically. And what would that look like? And so I started some brain dumping around all the different pieces of sales that I have learned and pieces that I see women struggle with that I work with. My ideal client is really someone who fixed something in their own life, was craving something in their own life, created it, and then wanted to share it with others and really make it bigger because they know that if they're struggling with it, then other people are too. They didn't get a degree in business and say, okay, now that I know all this stuff about business, how can I start a business? It's kind of a different way to get to being an entrepreneur. And so because they're like, oh, I fix this for myself, I want to fix it for others, they don't necessarily have a really in-depth understanding of what a startup looks like, how to sell, how to do a lot of the pieces a lot of the hats that you have to wear as an entrepreneur. And I always say, if you don't sell, you don't have a business. And there's a lot of women who have this amazing thing that they offer, they don't know how to put on their sales hat. And so if I were to bring something to them, what would it look like? And so I'm like, okay, I'm just going to start to like put stuff out there. So I brain dumped like all of the different pieces of the sales process that I know that I can speak to, then started to put it together. One of the things that I did was I was like, okay, I'm going to create a course. So I'm using the free version of Teachable at the moment, and was like, okay, let me start to put this together. And every Wednesday, I host virtual co-working. I would love to have you. I'll put the link in the show notes. It's free virtual co-working. Come when you can, leave when you need to. But it's a really nice place where a bunch of us get together. We hop on. We talk about what we're going to accomplish during the 2 hours, and then put on some good music and do our thing. And in a couple of those, I was like, this is my focus. This is what I'm going to be working on. So what I first did is like brain dumped everything that I know about sales, like things that I wanted to talk about. And then I put them into like 4 pillars of like, okay, these kind of all go together. These are all like under some sort of umbrella. And then from there, I was like, okay, I'm going to transfer these into some sort of course format. And I was in Teachable for one of the co-working sessions trying to like lay it all out. And I was like, whoa, this is a lot. I felt very overwhelmed by the process. Let's say the place I am manifesting working at came to me tomorrow and said, hey, can you do a 1 hour, a 2 hour presentation on sales as an entrepreneur? I'd be like, yeah. I couldn't have that knocked out in Canva very quickly. This course was like much more of a heavy lift than I was anticipating. Funny enough, later that week, one of my clients was like, hey, yeah, I'm taking this course. She really is, honed in on building a course over the next couple of months before she goes on maternity leave. So she has something that she can market and sell while she's on maternity leave, which is incredible. She's like, yeah, I'm taking this workshop with Amy Porterfield. And I was like, And I like looked on the landing page. She's like, I actually got to run because the first workshop starts in like 5 minutes. I was like, okay. And I looked it up and it was starting in 5 minutes. And I was like, sign me up. Because it just felt like it clicked. I have never taken an Amy Porterfield's class, but I'd heard really good things about her. I'm a big fan of Jenna Kutcher, and they are very good friends, both I think in life and business. This is what we see from social media. I'm not saying that any of this is like factual, but I don't know. I get the vibe that they are passionate about helping people in a way that feels aligned with me and my business. So I said, I'm going to sign up for this workshop. And it was 4 days. It was Friday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And each workshop was like an hour long. And it was teaching you how to build a course. And I feel really energized, really excited. I'll get into a little bit of that in a little bit, but like it felt like things were clicking. Things were coming to me in the way that they're supposed to. Getting to the messy middle piece of it, and the part that has felt really scary, is I have had a couple people who have been in the mastermind for many times of it. I run it every quarter for 10 weeks, and they have been on an automatic, like, sign me up every quarter for almost 2 years. So like we've spent at least 8 quarters together. They've seen me through when I was doing it on the side. They saw me through when I got laid off. They saw me when I left the Pilates studios. Like, there have been a handful of people who've been on a really frequent rotation with me. I've had other people who like are here for 2 quarters, take a quarter off. Then they're there for 3 quarters, so like I have had a lot of people continue to come back. And that has been something that's like, okay, people see enough of a value in it where they keep coming back. And this quarter, I have no one coming back. They're not for reasons of anything other than like there are just things in their life that are taking a higher priority. And so becoming the relaxed entrepreneur, I'm like, yes, say no to things, have a relationship with no. And like, that doesn't mean that thing you're saying no to is bad, but like you can only invite new good things in when you say no to things. And I thought one crying session about this was enough. Clearly it wasn't. Or maybe it's just that I'm saying it to more than one person. It hit me one day. I was like, maybe I need to put the mastermind down for a little bit so that I can say yes to the sales course. And when I heard from the people that they weren't going to be coming back, it hit me like, maybe this isn't like a thing that I can sustain at the moment, but I didn't know what I was going to then fill it with. And it felt really scary. And the scarcity mindset of me was like, I'm just going to burn it all down. Not really, but it was like, okay, like putting this down, which is a cornerstone of my business, means I have to like not be an entrepreneur anymore. And I like pushed that out of my mind and I was like, okay, Marshawn, like, you know that you have like spots to fill. I cap it at 6 people. Like, you can fill 6 spots. Like, you can do this. It's like the gritty part of me went into. And then when I signed up for this Amy Porterfield workshop and really started to build out what that would look like, it was like, maybe you're putting that down to say yes to this course and what that looks like. So I talked to my dad about it and I cried on the phone. He's like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, when I tell you what it is, you're going to be like, you're crying to this point because of that. Like, he didn't say that, but that was like, you know, how our conversation went. And he's like, maybe, like, you're the only person who can sit and like understand that. And as I've like gone through this course, like, I'm so excited about this. Saying it on here makes it real. But I think I'm going to pause the mastermind so that I can do this, like this course. I love it how I say I'm so excited as I'm like literally a crying mess. Ugh, I have an event to go to later and I'm going to have to redo my makeup. Jeez. But I'm so excited. I know that I can help so many people with this course. And so I am putting together a sales course, because then even like when I was thinking about it, I was like, this course feels aligned, it feels right, and it feels like, Marshawn, you've been doing this backwards. You've been doing business backwards for a long time. So we're here to right the ship. And I'm pausing the mastermind. I'm not like closing it forever. I definitely think that there will be another iteration of it, but I think that there are many women in the mastermind who struggle to get sales, and then they're like, I'm struggling with sales, and so I can't pay for other things. And so I think in helping heart-centered women entrepreneurs really understanding the sales funnel and having a frequent touch point with their sales funnel and feeling confident in the sales process is going to allow them to create space for things like a mastermind. I'm so excited to launch this sales course. The one thing I forgot to mention, and part of why this is so important to me, is thinking about scaling. Right now, with a 6-person cohort, I'm trading my time for money. And so if I want to grow the business, I have to bring in more clients, which means I have to work more. Having a course means that you can sell and sell and sell. Like, whether 5 people sign up for this course or 50 people sign up for this course, my energy input into it is pretty much the same. You know, you get 50 people into a course and people have questions and you have to hone in on the onboarding process and things like that. But if I have 6 people in my cohort versus 60, those are such different needs on my time. And so I think the next step of this process for me was like, how can I grow and do something that will allow me to be scalable? And so that's also part of becoming the relaxed entrepreneur. So after taking Amy Porterfield's workshop, like, I have all the content there. She helped me create a framework, really understand like who I wanted to help. I created a freebie already for it. So I can't remember if it was Friday or Monday. I think it was Monday of this week. We got done with the workshop at 11:45. And by the time I got my daughter off the bus, so it was like 2 hours, I had already created the socials for my freebie. I had created the freebie itself. I created the landing page and linked everything up. So as soon as they got the landing page or were on the landing page and put in their email, they got the email with the freebie in it and they were added to my email list all in 2 hours. I was so hyped up. I was so excited. And I have been really excited about what this journey of helping women with their sales has looked like since the beginning of the year, but I haven't had any direction. And now I really feel like I have direction, and I feel like this is just going to make a big impact. This is going to have a lot of ripple effects, and this is going to just help so many people. And I am so lit up about it. I was in a call with another community that I'm a part of. This was probably like a month or a month and a half ago now. But I was on the call, and like someone in the group was like struggling with this specific piece of it, and like how to go from educating the audience to creating prospects, and really like, what does the funnel look like? What does it mean? And I was so like, I literally was like, she was talking and I was like, I'm going to nerd out on you for just a minute. And I got out my whiteboard and we whiteboarded a bunch of stuff, and it was like the best. And I was like, I want to teach more of that. Like what I just did with you, I want to do more of that. And she was like, I have never been explained the things like that you just did in that way. And she's like, that was incredible. Like, she just was like, that is exactly what I needed. And I was like, how do I teach more of that? And that has been a through line of my business, is like, when I get really excited about something, when I feel like I'm on cloud nine of something, I was like, how do I create more of that? I first did my first like business book club, and I would always leave feeling like, how do I create more of that? And so that's kind of been like my guiding light throughout my business, is like answering that question. And until literally just right now, I just realized that is what I'm doing. But when I left that call, I was like, oh, I love teaching that. I love helping people with that. I love having like light bulb moments for women who love doing what they do and want to just sell more of it, feel really educated and confident and authentic in their sales process. And that's what this course is going to do. And so that's me creating more of it. That's me using my North Star goal and saying no to the mastermind, but in a way that is it's hard. And I had to process it like live as I'm recording this. I'm still processing it because it has been like how I've identified myself for the past couple of years. It has been like the through line of my business. In the sales process, you really should hone in on that one offer, that one thing. And the mastermind has been my one thing. Like, I have this podcast, I have virtual co-working, and I love both of them. And I have incorporated them into my sales funnel to funnel people to the mastermind. So everything's kind of funneling down to the mastermind. And now I'm like, and I'm going to box you up and put you on the shelf for now. And funnel people to what? When I started out the year being like, I want to help people in sales, I don't know what it's going to look like. And then throughout this quarter being like, I'm going to build a sales course, but I don't know what I'm going to do with it. It's now been this culmination, which is a lot of times what September has in store for me. I got my LLC in September. I decided to go full time in September. I launched my first beta program for the accountability groups in 2020 in September. So like September has this very connection with me around new and release and next and evolution. And that's what this is. It hasn't completely taken shape yet. There are still some messy pieces of it. I'm still very much in the messy middle of it. And there's this process of me like grieving what I thought this next part of my business would be. Putting the masterminds on the shelf has a thread of grief for me, obviously. And saying no to the masterminds for this quarter is like that release. But again, like, it's not no forever. I'm putting you on a shelf because I need to hone in, focus, market, put my energy into this sales course so it can be the best piece of content for my audience, for my life, for my business, for other people's businesses, for other people's ideas, for other people's confidence. One of the things is, I was talking earlier this week with my dad and was like, if you can, what someone who was a part of our business before, one of the things that he talked about and has stuck with me is like, if you can sell, you can do anything. And so much of what we talk about on the show, has these overlaying effects as far as when you build up better boundaries in your business, you create better boundaries in your life. And you can't become this better entrepreneur without becoming a better person and, using those muscles in other areas of your life. And, the idea of sales, I think if you get confident in your ability as a salesperson, that affects your confidence in your abilities in other areas of your life. And there's a lot of different pieces of why I think that's true. I don't want to get into all of them right now, but there's a grittiness to sales. And it's not it's not being pushy. It's not being sleazy. It's not like a snake oil salesman and, oh, you're making people buy things they don't want to buy. That's not the type of sales that I believe in. That's not the type of sales that I think other people in my arena talk about when they talk about sales. Amanda Francis talks about sales as a commitment to your calling. If you feel called to help people in this way, part of your commitment to living that through is selling to other people. They can't buy what they don't know exists. And so many of us feel so anxious around the sales process that we never put ourselves out there. And so I want to create something that changes that. And that's why I'm creating this course. It is going to be focused on the prospecting piece of sales. I think there's information out there on all the different aspects of sales. And so sometimes people are like, well, how do I become a better closer? How do I improve my sales meetings? How do I overcome objections? You can't overcome objections if you're not talking to anybody about your services. So piece one is turning your actions from marketing into actual sales. And so that's the prospecting piece of it. How do you get out in front of a lot more people, start having a lot more sales conversations? And then we're going to dive into the deeper pieces of it of how do I overcome objections? How do I close the deal? How do I follow up with people? How do I pivot my pricing or, negotiate or anything like that? None of that happens until you start to have conversations with people about your offering and what your offer is. So this specific course is really going to be honed in on prospecting. I think that is foundational to all of your sales process. None of it happens unless the prospecting is there. So that's what it's going to be about. As I mentioned before, I do have the freebie, which I think is really cool. And it's 30 days to double your prospects. And so it's one action item that you can take every day for 30 days to double the number of prospect conversations that you're having. If you go to highvibecowork.com/30, you can grab yours and you don't reach out to anybody until day 6. I think that prospecting and sales is a muscle, just like a lot of other things that I talk about here. So we start off slow. We start off, somewhat easy, but by the end, you're doing cold outreaches every day. So it's a slow buildup, but you don't even reach out to anybody till day 6. So again, highvibecowork.com/30 to grab your checklist. And thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for accepting me and my vulnerability. I wasn't sure what I was going to talk about this week. And I was talking with Jazzy, my podcast producer, and she's like, talk about what you just spent 15 minutes talking to me about. People want to hear that. I think that's powerful. The point of this podcast is to explore the messy middle, and you're in the messy middle. So share that because it really feels messy. I'm excited to see where it goes. If you were here for this whole episode, my breakdown doesn't show necessarily how excited I am, but I am excited. I can't wait to take you on this journey. I appreciate you being here. And until next time, remember that big dreams and small steps will transform your life.